Have you ever imagined what it would be like to watch the Dark Knight series with no music? Well, that sort of hypothetical situation should tell you how important music is to storytelling. And that's exactly what we're talking about today on How to Be a Better DM. Welcome back to today's show. I'm your host, Justin Lewis, here with my friend Caden Otley, and we are joined by two very special guests, Noah and Tyler Rich. So everyone, go around and say hello. I didn't give you a chance, but go ahead and say hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hey, I'm Caden.
Hey, I'm Tyler.
Hey, I'm Noah.
As you can tell, I am not a conductor, right? Because otherwise I would have been able to be like you. But that said, listener, Noah and Tyler, they are the founders and creators of Monument Studios. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, you've likely realized that we are partnered up with Monument Studios, right? We use them in our actual play show, The Pact and Boon, and we promote their stuff pretty heavily because we truly believe in the power of music and how it can affect your immersion within the gaming space. And we wanted to bring on Noah and Tyler to talk about Monument Studios as well as a Kickstarter that they've been working on, and also talk about how to do this right, how to use music in the best ways in your game. So that way your players are fully immersed, you're having the best time of your life, and it's frankly not a hassle. So without further ado, we're going to jump in. And to start things off easy and light, Noah, Tyler, and then Caden, what are some things or the thing that you've been geeking out about lately?
Thanks for having us on. This is our first kind of real podcast interview, so this is kind of wild. But to answer your question, nothing too crazy. We've all kind of been rewatching Game of Thrones, and kind of studying the nuts and bolts of that because it's such a iconic soundtrack. But outside of TV, been playing a lot of World of Warcraft. Justin, I was showing you before we started rolling the Frostmourne guy right there. That a lot of that. But yeah, that's those are the big ones. Those are the big ones right now.
My answer isn't quite as on brand, I guess. It's largely on the music production side, like he said. And even going into like the newest kind of film scores and movie trailers that are out. Like even if the movie looks like garbage, like it's kind of besides the point. Like people are always kind of pushing the envelope. And so from a technical standpoint, an audio production standpoint, from a compositional standpoint, we're like, hey, less is kind of more, and trying to bring those diamonds back to Monument for that. So we're continually on the frontier of the cinematic kind of areas when we need to be. Other than that, my free time is probably super boring to most people. I examine a lot of like Bach. I like to play a lot of Bach on the guitar, so classical music. I read quite a bit, philosophy, stuff like that. That's kind of it. It's like we're just doing Monument like all the time. So
awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, we are rewatching Thrones and stuff for and examining the brilliance there on the audio side of things. Some Warcraft. But yeah, nothing too like crazy exciting. So
It all sounds pretty exciting. Like you guys are in the thick of it, composing world's greatest D&D music.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about you, Caden?
Lately, I'm trying to think. I have been. Oh man, So we just got this new printer, new 3D printer. It's from Elegoo, and it's like 3 times the size of my old one. And so I've been printing nonstop for my D&D game, which Justin's a part of.
Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what I'm most excited about, and what I've been nerding out over is I'll sit and I'll edit the live play show, and I just get, you know, the fantasy vibes, and I get to paint the miniatures for my upcoming D&D games.
I would love to see some of that.
Yeah, dude,
man, that sounds cool.
They're not gonna actually. I'm gonna toot my own horn. They're pretty good.
they're really good. Okay. Yeah, they're really good.
Awesome.
What do you
definitely need to see some of this?
Yeah. What is it like? Just like mini guys, like little tiny guys, or okay?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like placeholders for the monsters or the characters, and so like. My favorite ones that I've painted recently, they're from this Flesh of Gods pack. Yeah, here you go. Justin has a mini.
Oh, no.
And so that's a wraith, which is cool.
Yeah.
Whoa,
that is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, they get into crazy detail. But my favorite one that I've done most recently is this. It's called an archvine, and it's this like plant creature that, you know, it's like a flower that its mouth opens up and it has eyeballs inside of it and all these teeth. And it's, you know, I added some resin in the mouth to make it look like saliva.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's serious business.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere where I can like stay posted on these activities? Like, do you do these on like your personal account or?
No, dude, I'd get shamed on my personal account. So,
No.
So Justin and I have been talking about kind of pushing the social media more, and I mean, because Justin does a lot on there, but Tanner and I, the other co-hosts, we don't do as much posting. And so I think that is what I'm going to be pushing the most, is kind of painting content and like the minis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Effective immediately. That is excellent. That is a great. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you guys are telling us to, I'll do it. You know, that's all I need.
I love
especially
it.
Especially if it's that good too. Like.
Yeah. That's no joke.
Everyone's being deprived.
Yeah.
I think they might be. I'm pretty. There's a few of them that I'm pretty excited about. So.
I love it.
Nice.
As far as I go, I've just been reading some source books lately from D&D. My brother gave me a bunch back in December, and I've been making my way through it. And as I've been reading them, obviously they're by, you know, Wizards of the Coast. I've been learning ways to really do better myself in writing these content pieces. And actually, I think that's a great segue into you guys, right? Because naturally, there was a time when there was no Monument Studios, right? And so I'm curious, how did you go from that point to now? And sort of what were some influences along the way kind of pushing you into doing this or doing that?
Ooh. Yeah, that's a big
one. You start on
0 to 1,000,000 right there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's insane.
So from nothing, I mean, it depends on how far back you want to go, because it really does go back to like when we were kids, like just old enough to, you know, even pick up the instruments. So we've always been doing it together, and it's taken different shapes, like, you know, as we moved through our lives, from, you know, progressive metal stuff to hip hop stuff to, you know, just kind of just all over. And ultimately, it was in the pandemic. You know, a lot of great businesses arose in that period, but it became existential to, you know, of the highest order there is, you know, because it's like, we know what we want to do and we know what we love to do, but, you know, you're met with that resistance. So it's like, you know, as you're approaching 30 and you're still trying to make music your life, you know, you're not exactly smiled upon with, you know, by others. So It was this kind of, for us, Monument was really like our it was our final stand of like, this is, it's all or nothing. And so, really to get to the core of your question was, now that we were a little bit older and a little bit, there was some maturation there. It was like, well, like, what do we love? So there's a built-in sustain to it. And we thought, it's entertainment, video games, television shows, like specifically, of obviously the fantasy nature, but it was just really, like I said, it was an existential line of questioning. And TTRPGs were not a part of that at this point. It was just, just entertainment, scoring and composing. So as we felt our way through that, and we're kind of trying to carry over our pre-existing musical knowledge and production experience, over the course of some time, it just kind of was like, hey, like, we're playing a homebrew thing with our family, and our brother put on like some music to accentuate the moment, but the music like wasn't hitting, right? Like it wasn't like like this isn't what necessarily should be playing. And so that was just kind of like the mental kind of supernova, you could call it, where because it sounds easy after you've done it, right? Like, oh, you make music for role-playing games, like it sounds so obvious, but it's really not. And the logistics that go behind it are so convoluted, and it opens up to be really complex, structuring things specifically for tabletop audio. And so, I don't know if I've sufficiently answered your question or not, because it's such a large question. But
one thing I would add to that, just one thing that's jumping out at me, Tyler, for that is when we were running like one of those first sessions and that music was on, and in that same world, like Fantasy Plus was built and Fantasy Plus was running, and like how different like that first session was versus like the 12th session. Like, true,
because the campaign was so long, right?
Yeah,
actually, like, I never thought about that. Huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
that's so cool.
Like,
you guys got to live the progression.
Yeah, it was really.
I never even thought about that. Like, so that's
yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. So we're trying our best.
So one thing I got to say is, as we've been talking, I just like look over at Caden and I see he relates to you guys so much, right? Like you guys are like,
we're vibing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he probably mentioned he's a musician and
he's a failed musician.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
We did.
Yeah, we did
talk a little bit about that, and there was there was a lot of energy to keep that conversation going.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, along those same lines, it's like it is like the question of musicians at past age 23 who haven't, like, oh, is this going to work? Right. I remember my dad coming to me, when I was 19 or something, and he's like, Caden, promise me that when you turn 24, like that's the cutoff when you're going to just go back to college. You're going to get a real job.
I'm very familiar with this.
Yes.
With this. Yeah.
This is hitting too close to home.
You guys did it. Exactly. This is awesome. This is so cool.
Yeah. Oh man,
that is funny.
Sorry, I just needed a drink. So you mentioned a few things that I really want to dig into, and in your first experience, right? Well, not the first experience, but you had that experience in the D&D session where the music is playing, it's not landing, and that made me really wonder. Obviously, Monument Studios crafts these pieces of music for TTRPGs and other uses, but each piece is so different. When you craft these pieces of music, do you think of specific situations? Do you try and make it broad enough that it can fit multiple? Like, how do you decide this is where this, musical Lego piece is going to fit?
Yeah.
Again, a massive question.
Yeah.
I'll let
Yeah,
Noah start it off.
It's definitely a multi-dimensional question. I mean, there's sometimes I'm just like, I'll be sitting at my computer with Logic open and just zone out for like hours because, an idea doesn't come, or, creative blocks. You guys are familiar with I'm sure with that, but yeah, so we have like, influences from video games, artists, Hans Zimmer, he's always going to be a big one. So when we're feeling particularly like stuck, then we'll, go poke around and see, kind of what other people are doing, how we can put our own twist and still make something original. But for that, it's so diverse. Like, our other brother will, since he's the GM for our campaign, like I remember specifically there was a character in there, like kind of like a BBEG type, and I don't know, sometimes something just really resonates, and then you're able to like, it kind of like writes itself. Like, you're just kind of following along a story or a character. And those are typically the most fun, especially when me and Tyler can like collaborate on it. Cause then we're just like, kind of like, it's like a feedback loop of good ideas. But yeah, it's so diverse. Like, you hear somebody do something better than you, and then that like, kind of like, you're like, like I should have like done something, kind of cool like that. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
Tyler,
it's such a vast question.
It's tough to
because
really,
it might sound cliche, but it does come from anywhere, right? So it could be like you're saying, character based or narrative based, or it can be something a lot more abstract than that. It can be something pulled from your own life experience, or maybe you're going through a time that's particularly not too bright, or maybe it is bright, and so there's those things. And I think the reason why it's hard to articulate the scope of where it's coming from is because really at the root of it, it's so transparent from our end of things. Like we want to do something, like you said, like that's original, that's fun, that's and go all these and places, and most certainly not do things because we think it's gonna fan service or make money. Like that is absolutely never in the equation. And people ask us for specific stuff quite often, and some of those things we try to meet them halfway because we want people to be happy. But there's a cutoff line because it's like, this is not like within our like something that we as human beings are particularly thrilled about, and that's going to come through in the work. And we absolutely don't want to produce anything that we're not proud of, or anything that's subpar, or like we still want to have fun, and so but it's quite complex. Yeah.
It's a tricky balance.
It kind of churns sure. on a day-to-day or week-to-week or month-to-month basis, because we have to produce such voluminous amounts of content that, like sometimes you are like, it's more world building inspired, or it's more personally inspired, or things. But then you ask the question of, do you try to make it so it can fit more than one situation? And the answer is yes and no. A lot of the times yes, and some of the times no, because the sound is so specific, and it's a situation that is likely to come up when you take an aggregate of everybody. And so we try to really get that sound right. Like if it's like a plot twist, for example, and it's dark and there's a sound of intelligence behind it, like, well, yeah, like that's obviously going to sound like a plot twist, right? But if you're doing like an elven kind of ambience or forest, then we take a step back and try to be a little bit more abstract with that. So you could use it for that, or you could use it for a character, or we want to leave as much distance as practically possible So yes, like the person on the receiving end can paint it however they see it. So it's a hybrid. And to I don't want to yap everyone's ear off, but as a final note on that, I would say, it's such a scientific approach at the end of the day, because when you're designing these things, contextual to tabletop gaming, at least we certainly hope that when you're playing Monument stuff, it reads as different as if you just played something on YouTube and you're like, hey man, we've been listening to the same song on loop for 20 minutes, So the way that they're like structured, and then the way they loop back into themselves, we try to make it, put a lot of thought behind that. And we're certainly not perfect at it, but it's something that we're always trying to be better at and just kind of push the envelope of. And as far as contextual to the actual implementation of it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I like your answer better, Tyler.
So getting into more of the sorry. Well, I really like the way you speak, because it's very, very methodical and not how I speak. Like I feel like the way I speak is kind of like falling downhill a little bit. That's neither here nor there. Like you just kind of keep your feet going, like that one. Have you guys seen that sport in Ireland or whatever? They roll the cheese down the hill and everyone just falls.
Yeah, I literally
now I'm starting. Yeah. I feel like that's me. Anyways. So now getting into sort of the nuts and bolts of using it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the best methods you've seen or experienced or maybe recommended for dungeon masters who want to add music in to their games? Like, what are some tips you'd give them when trying to create these playlists?
Tips.
Interesting question to start it. Maybe spark Noah's imagination here. I would say less is more in a lot of cases, right? So when you're so excited about something and you want to make it fun and you want to make it, you just have all this energy, you tend to have this bravado where you kind of overdo it. And so, I think just to put it concisely is less is more. And obviously that's a very relative and flexible statement, because you have certain things that happen that do need a lot of power behind them. But if you're always just kind of hammering everything, it loses its value almost entirely. So just to draw a real life example over, you mentioned watching a great film without any music. Well, the greatest of entertainment is, if you notice, they pick and choose their battles on when they're going to play something, right? So if there's a very intense monologue, I mean, sometimes there is music if it's particularly villainous, but if it's very emotional and raw, it tends to be kind of dry, right? Like there's not like, you're not playing this violin piece over like something, that raw. So yeah, picking and choosing your battles, I would say.
That's one of the nice things about you guys include a lot of ambient noises that you can play. Because I do tend, like thinking back about how I use it, I'm like, I do fill a lot of space with just like that, I think in the library playlist, there's just like that.
Yeah.
Like room noise.
Yeah. The ambient, they're built just precisely for that. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
exactly
right.
That would be my advice, would be when you're using like ambiances, if you are using Fantasy Plus, there's that hotbar section where you can like queue up like different one shots and stuff. And I've been playing lately, like you can kind of take like an ambience, like, I don't know, say dragons flying in the rain, and line up like a bunch of different like either dragon samples or enemy monsters, and you can kind of like on the fly, like build out kind of like a new ambience on top of it. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Like you can kind of like twist what's already there and kind of make your own ambience, like with the one shots, if you pair like appropriate samples together.
Yeah.
And it would take some playing around to like, but we have like, for example, for Taverns Volume 1, there's like over 300 little like one shots you would hear in like a tavern. So if you had like one of the tavern, ambience is playing, and then you're doing your bit, and something happens, and you have like those options in your hotbar. Like, I don't know, like maybe like you could,
or like more
maybe helps with your, yeah. That would be my advice if you're using Fantasy Plus specifically, like the dance or like balance of one shots and ambiences specifically, like to like, I don't know, yeah, like maybe make something new out of what's already there.
I really like what Caden said. That's a great point to make when you're specifically talking about Fantasy Plus, is those ambiences that we put a lot of thought into are designed for just that. Like, so you're not always playing music. It's a lot more abstract, and you're talking about like kind of opening up a space, and that's dead on. That's precisely what they're for. And yeah, it just makes me happy to hear that it's being applied in the manner that we intended it to be,
When setting any scene, it's imperative that you tap into the 5 senses. When it comes to sound, one of the best ways to do that is with music, ambiance, and sound effects. And that's why we've teamed up with Monument Studios. Monument Studios provides easy-to-use soundboards perfect for dungeon mastering in any setting. If you want to see this in action, go to fantasy-plus.com and get 10% off of your first month when you get their Fantasy Plus app by using the code BETTERDM at checkout. Again, that's fantasy-plus.com and BETTERDM at checkout. Use music to amplify your gameplay. Thanks again for listening to our show. If you like our content and would like to engage with more of it, head over to our Instagram account at HowToBeABetterDM and give us a follow. Make sure to watch some of our Dungeon Master Rules videos while you're there to give yourself some more structure and procedure as a Dungeon Master. Also, don't forget to reach out with a DM and we can talk shop and I can get to know you a little bit better. Thanks again for listening.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can ask Justin, like right now they're trapped in this insane forest and you guys got it covered to a point where they feel scared in this forest at different times.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like it adds just
I
such another
love that.
dimension. Yeah, even for me as like a DM, like I feel like I'm able to describe what's happening more effectively because I feel so immersed.
Right.
Cool.
Really bring it to life. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
well, I mean,
really beautiful.
It does, it's one of the senses, right? And when playing D&D, there's only so much we can do with words or with visual things, right? But then we bring in this fully, composed third sense. I guess it's the same sense as words, but it's a whole nother level.
100%. It's funny you say that because we, at this point, it's like, I mean, like if somebody really wanted to, like you could push us to, but like we don't really want to play without it being scored. It's like once you like get to that point and it's like so well developed, you can't go back, right? Like it's like so
that's a great point. Exactly, dude. Yeah, I agree.
You can't unsee that. So that's fun.
Yeah.
So actually, on that note, one question I did have was what tips would you give to the dungeon master in managing both the music and other aspects of the gameplay?
Mm.
And that question goes to you too, Caden.
Yeah, I think Caden should take that one just because we don't ever DM.
Sure.
So we're just always on the player side. So
yeah. So this is kind of something that I'm getting better at, and I talked about this in my most recent episode, is just like learning how to shut up and just let things happen, because a lot of my players at least are more seasoned and are getting better at role playing. And so it's really nice because I can kind of sit back, and if they're on the trail somewhere, or, you know, like I said, right now they're in a forest and there could be a lot of downtime if I allow it. And I kind of take that time to assess what's happening next and decide, like, you know, what is the feeling of the conversation. And I mean, you guys, here's the nice thing is we're talking about Fantasy Plus. We only use Fantasy Plus, and you guys have this awesome search tool that makes it so easy. You know, it's like I get on there and I'm like, okay, I don't even know, like, you know, birds chirping or something. There's always something. Always something.
Okay. Well,
Cool, man.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because the search function is actually like literally half the reason that we're doing this Kickstarter, because it's just keyword based, and we really need it to be meta tag based. I mean, it's painfully obvious.
Sure.
So like we already do have the enterprise app guys, app developers in place to make sure it gets done. Like the Kickstarter is like, we just need the liquid. That's it. Like we already have the guys and the work cut out for us, and we know we largely know what it is we need to do. But yeah, the search is one of the primary things that we really want to bring up. Like, you know, a million levels there.
Yeah. And like I said, like I think it's great right now. And so if it was based in more of a, you know, I could type anything in and any related sounds come up, it's going to be a million times better. So that's super exciting to hear.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
And actually,
I'm glad you're
on that note,
enjoying it.
Yeah, cool.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say we try to like label things like specifically to like make it easier to search right now, because, you know, it is keyword searched, like keyword based. But I'm glad, man, you're able to like find the stuff, because people
once meta tags are in there.
Yeah, once that's in though, yeah, for sure. It'll be like,
like the delay and the thing is like making it hard to.
It's okay.
Yeah,
like bounce back and forth, like as if we were in person. No, I was just gonna say, once the meta tag thing like is in there, hopefully we can actually name a lot of the files that like the names that we want to name them. You know, is kind of like their own pieces, because sometimes like we have to, you know, you wrote this thing and you want to give it a name, and but nobody's gonna know what the that means, you know. So or
sure.
You know, when they need it, like you know, they might not be able to find it. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just the latency kind of got us tripped up.
Yeah.
Justin, I might hijack it for a second. I have some questions. So nice. A while ago when I was emailing back and forth with you guys, you told me $4.99 is forever. The price is $4.99 and that's not changing. Is that still true? Because we
actually, not technically true. No. Technically no. Cut that. Because we actually have our sites. We actually have our sites set on bringing the price down even further.
No way.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do in the end. That, you know, the Kickstarter is really like an inception for like, you know, like 100 chess moves, all of which are engineered to that. Because if we can have the user base to substantiate the exorbitant cost of the app itself, we do want to bring it down, even further, because we want it to be something that is so, you know, just get rid of the barrier of entry. So any creative firecracker that's out there is equipped, you know, with these resources to really bring their artistic ideas to life. I mean, that's the kind of people that we're trying to connect with here. And so we just think it's the right thing to do. It's not going to, you know, make nearly as much money as it could. That's very clear. But it's besides the point. It's about doing something like new and something, doing the right thing across everyone. And so we hope to be able to bring it down further. But we're playing it by ear.
No,
no
hearing that, I mean, you guys
microtransactions or paywalls.
No, it's amazing. Like, you guys are awesome. So for the listeners, like, you know, obviously Monument Studios is sponsoring the Pact and Boon, and so we get to enjoy this stuff for free. But I pay for it privately because I'm just like, man, you guys deserve the support. You know, I'm like,
thank you.
I'm like, it's like you said, it's already a low barrier of entry, and it's something that I barely notice come out of my account every month, and I just can't understand why anybody wouldn't do it at that price. And at a lower price, it's like,
we don't understand it either. Like, we're like, hey, like, come hang out with us, man. Like,
exactly.
And if you don't like it, please tell us that you don't. Like, tell us exactly why you don't, because we want to be sentient of that. Like, you know, we're not perfect, obviously, and so like, it's basically free, guys. Like,
yeah, it is. Well, especially when you consider the mental tax and the amount of man hours that go into creating productions like this. You know, it really it takes a toll on you. So I'm just like, man,
it does.
These are works of art for basically nothing.
Wow, thanh you.
Yeah, the cost has been high. That means a lot to hear you say that, because it's, you know, it's not something that, you know, we get to talk about or anything like that. But Noah can jump in on this very quickly, I'm sure. Is the last 5 minutes? It's the last 5 years have been from our personal lives just entirely sacrificed to Monument. Like, you know, because there's so much content and because it's so cheap. Like, you know, we're like we talked about earlier, kind of fighting the good fight thing, and so. Yeah, like we don't, you know, when we said we were boring, like in terms of like nerding out, like we're just doing this, and the amount of work it takes to even do, like you said, like one piece, let alone if we drop, you know, that's why you don't see a lot of installments come out from us. You know, we release like one, maybe two things a year because we're just putting that much into it and just hoping that we can at least like, you know, get enough in return out of it to do another one. Like, so,
we kind of insulate ourselves from the world. That's all. Yeah. I don't know. We just, this is all we have time for. And we're kind of just in our own little world over here. Yeah.
Yeah. The price tag is high.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly love what you're doing. And actually, because of that, we would want to talk about the Kickstarter, right? We can't let you guys finish this episode without talking about the Kickstarter. So for our audience members who are unaware yet, enlighten them, illuminate them, and tell them what this Kickstarter is all about.
Well, so August 20th. Oh, sorry, go ahead. It's the latency thing.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
I know. It's all good. It's all good. Basically, we've been in open beta with this project for the last 4 years or so. All of the updates since the alpha have been based on community feedback. And that's really what we thrive on, is like people kind of telling us what sucks about it. And like this, you need this, you don't need this. And like kind of like, you know, distill it down into something like, you know, simple. Like, because at the end of the day, that's really what we want to do, is like, because we know you're like, people are running sessions. They don't really have time to like, you know, like get too wild with it. So, you know, we want to make things like as simple. Yeah. So it mainly focuses around, like search functionality features, things that will cut down time, like occupancy time, and just get you straight into business. And for the rewards, we have so many cool things. I won't go into all of them, but specifically, we partnered with Demille's Wondrous Works. She's She's if you don't know about her, then you're missing out because she does really amazing artwork. And we've partnered with her
Yeah, it's
to
really
offer digital
beautiful.
maps.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're hand drawn,
Cool.
award nominated. I think Tyler, winning or nominated
Yeah,
for her.
at the Crit Awards, very recently, yeah, she was nominated for Best Map Designer.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it hardly gets any better than that. I mean, she's so talented, and so we're thrilled to um, have somebody like that working with us, of course. And so, yep, those are baked into the reward tiers. So August 20th, which, yeah, the time we're talking about this, it's exactly a week out. Um, yeah, we have a lot of. Honestly, I think it might be historic for Kickstarter as a platform itself, just in how much we have to give away, and the value that people are going to be able to redeem from it, and that's exactly what we want. We want everybody to extract so much value from this, and to genuinely be thrilled about it and to be happy about it, and then we get to build the future of tabletop audio together. I mean, we you'll often see when it comes to Fantasy Plus, it'll talk about the vision of the future of tabletop audio, and that's not just some pompous marketing statement, right? It's a real vision that we have, and it's crystal clear. When we're talking about the price being, just the barrier of entry is like non-existent, and the scope of it, like there's so much stuff, and no microtransactions like we were talking about. Just
no
one fee,
paywalls.
global access, super cheap, super lean, and hopefully post Kickstarter, the app performs. It's just a stunning experience through and through, and making that trying to bring that to scale as much as possible. And certainly by our account, nobody else is doing anything even remotely close to something like that. And
Hmm.
and so we want to be the guys, at least, and if we're not, inspire somebody who's following suit. Like, there's just a lot of room for improvement here, and so that's what we're after.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, you got to go support these guys. We need more people like this, just in the
We
world.
do. We need
being
more
successful.
people. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, man. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
This has been such a
Thank you.
pleasure. Like, this is like Noah said. We're not.
Yeah.
We haven't really done podcasts and stuff, so we didn't really know what to expect. But this was such a
Yeah,
pleasure.
I'm sorry
You
for
guys are so awesome.
steamrolling anybody. Sorry for steamrolling anybody. Like the little delays here are kind of like.
Oh
It's just-
yeah, no, that's the thing you need to know about Noah. Noah's like literally like the nicest, like sweetest guy you ever met.
I'm gonna leave.
Like
I'm gonna walk.
he's
I'm gonna leave now.
yeah, he's good like that, man. He's good like that.
Well,
That's awesome. No apologies necessary. Honestly, that's podcasting. This is podcasting. Like I said, it's not a good episode unless something went wrong, right? That's probably not true, but
Yeah,
whatever. It works for me.
No, I think it is. I think
That's brilliant.
that
I
is
like
resoundingly true.
We really appreciate you being on the show with us today. And
Thank you so much.
before we let you go, a couple
Yeah.
things. 3 questions for each of you. Also for you, Kaden.
Oh, sweet.
What is your
Kaden in this.
favorite music piece, ambient piece, or sound effect piece? And then that's question 1. Number 2 is, what is one last piece of advice you'd like to leave for dungeon masters before you say so long? And then question 3, how can people reach out to you, support you, and see what you're up to? We're going to start with Noah, and then Tyler, and then finish up with Kaden.
Okay. For the first question, favorite piece, it's actually unreleased right now. For Wrath, that's coming out. It's going to be a Kickstarter exclusive. There's going to be a song
There's
in
your
there
best stuff
called
in it.
Counter. Yeah, dude, there's like going to be so much good stuff in there. But there's a song called Counter Check in there, and it's kind of like a climatic like battle like track. And that one, it was like over 800 tracks or something. So it was like I would try to open this session and it was like took 3 hours to open if it like crashed or something. But that one,
People aren't
countercheck
ready
from
for
Wrath
that.
coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's pretty nuclear, explosive.
Yeah.
And then favorite ambience would probably be just one of the chill ones, probably like Forest Rain, since it's so like universal. Like it's just such good vibes to like relax for a second with that. And then, sorry, the question was sound effect as well. Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
I'll probably say sure. I'd say one of the dragon roars. Those are pretty classic.
Oh, those rip hard. Those rip hard.
Yeah. Best way to contact us is at Monument Studios on Instagram or email. Always there, ready to talk to people. And my caffeine's wearing off. I'm sorry, guys. What was the final question? So
Totally
sorry.
fine.
That was it.
Totally fine.
I think that will.
Was that it?
Last parting tip for dungeon masters.
Oh, last parting tip. Shoot.
We can come back to you too.
Okay. I would say if you haven't tried out Fantasy Plus, give it a test run and see if it's something you could see yourself using.
Perfect.
See if it fits your needs.
I love it.
Favorite piece from. Oof. Well, I'm the wrong person to ask this because I don't like any of them. Like, in the sense of like how it is like when you work on something, and you're like, oh, like
I've heard that a million times.
Yep.
Yeah, right. So, but I mean, obviously, in a genuine sense, I'd hate to say what he said, but it's true. Like our newest installment, our unreleased library does objectively have, I think, some of the best music, like from a compositional side, and for certain from the audio production side, because we've just been taking it so seriously. We've really, I think, made some significant improvements. So it would be unreleased as well, but I'd hate to say that. So from the app, such a crazy question. Help me out, dude.
How about I know conspiracy theme's pretty. That's a
conspiracy theme. I love that. I love conspiracy theme. Stepstones.
Yeah.
Is honestly that one. That one's. Yep. Stepstones is good. Kind of put me on the spot, guys. I don't know. Like, I really don't.
No, it's
still perusing.
If you don't have an answer, no worries.
Yeah, I really don't. There's a lot of pieces that are like close to my heart, like Exodus, and Cryptic Choir. Actually, is if nobody's used that, definitely check out Cryptic Choir, and the recap theme. The recap theme, if I'm going to put in the top 1%. Yes,
I do remember that one.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as advice, I think just earlier, maybe in the context of audio, sometimes less is more. So if you're just really excited about using stuff, definitely not trying to stop you. Use it, have fun. But as it goes on, it might dawn on you that some refinement is in order. As far as reaching out to us, yeah, like you said, we're always open through our email. Like if there's ever an issue, but just we're primarily active on Instagram. And yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm, if I haven't shown it yet, a nerd about this. So at the end of Acton Boone, I have the handle Passacaglia harp. I don't know how to say that.
Oh, you do, Handel?
Yeah.
No.
I love you, dude. Like we would be such good friends if that's what you picked.
Oh yeah, I the second I started talking to you guys, I figured that out.
Talk about taste maker with class over here. That is, yeah. Love it, man.
So
Absolutely.
So yeah, that one I love hearing that at the end of every one of our episodes. It never gets old, and I just feel like it fits the.
It
There's
doesn't
like
get old.
there's the sense of like, oh, it's there's something more coming. There's more story to be had.
Wow. That
Yeah.
I respect that.
And then
That's
as
nuts.
far as like atmosphere goes, I have a few that I use a lot, and so those are probably my favorites. I feel like there's one it's like a fireplace. You're sitting next to like the hearth, right? And there's something
Mage's
about,
Campfire is really good.
yeah, there you go. There's something about that is conducive to just good conversation. It is like, hey, you're at the campfire. What's happening? And a lot of good talks happen around campfires in real life. So maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, probably. I talked about that like kind of empty room noise. I think that one's really nice. And then there's like I think it's like a schizophrenic forest that I use a lot.
Fantasy one.
That is literally one of the first files we ever made for Monument. No joke.
Really? I think it's such a funny name too, and it was like just what I was looking for specifically the campaign.
Yeah,
I'm running
right. Like back then, we were just like, just kind of having fun, and just it wasn't as serious as it is right now. So
Sure.
you're just kind of like, Whoa.
Wow.
That's pretty
cool. Yeah, that's a throwback. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. My tip. The tip that I have is, what the hell are you guys doing? Get Fantasy Plus. If you can't tell, I'm a huge proponent for it. So, but musician or not, this is something that elevates your game so much. So please do your players a favor. Yeah.
Well, listener, you heard it here. If you want to immerse your players much more, also, I apologize for saying immerse. If you want to immerse your players much, much more. And, as Tyler said, I think this stuck out to me. In movies, when the music stops, right? Just go listen to A Quiet Place or A Quiet Place 2 or the other one they made, right? Music has such an important part in storytelling because it's not so much about what you're listening to, but about what you're feeling. So as you set the scenes in your games, make sure your players are feeling exactly what you want to feel. So Noah, Tyler, Caden, thank you guys so much for being here with me on today's episode. Listener, we're going to be back next week with another. Yeah, thank you
so much for having us.
Also, lag.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the lag. It's not us.
Yeah. Cursed. Yeah.
No, I totally get it. But listener, thank you for being here and joining us. We're going to be back next week with another handcrafted episode. Until then, let's go ahead and roll initiative. Brought to you by Session Zero Studios. For more information, visit sessionzerostudios.com.